G'day legends and welcome back to the Mighty Overlander. If this is your first time to the channel, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button and notification bell and you'll know when my content goes live. Now today I'm back in Malaga Racing Dynamics with Phil the Mechanic, and we're going to quickly go through this bad boy here, the Throttle Grenade throttle controller. Now what is a throttle controller? Well, luckily we've got an expert here that's going to be able to tell you exactly what a throttle controller is and how they work. G'day Phil, welcome back.
Thanks mate, good to be here.
So if you could quickly explain to the guys at home how a throttle controller works and the difference between throttle by wire and throttle by cable.
Well look, most of the cars these days don't have a cable connecting your throttle pedal to your throttle body in the engine anymore. Gone are those days. So nowadays most of it is controlled all by electronics. So there's a small sensor on the back of the throttle pedal, and then in the engine bay your throttle body is actually controlled by a little servo motor. So it's all controlled by the ECU, makes it a lot easier for the boffins back at the factory to, when they tune the cars and the engines when they come out, make them super reliable, crisp throttle, things like fuel economy and the power delivery as well, because a lot of cars these days are also automatic trans, so they all work in conjunction with each other to make the cars drive the way they do.
Now there's also a component regarding fuel emissions, is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
No worries. Now how does a throttle controller fit into that puzzle?
So these days with the fly-by-wire throttle, when they come out from the factory, they're quite doughy. So when you get on the throttle, you'll notice sometimes like a stop sign, for example, or a set of traffic lights, when you get on the accelerator pedal, it's a little bit slow to get off. And that's because they program in that way for the variety of drivers, you know, the millions of us and billions of us in the world. Not everyone's driving is the same, so they make them a bit doughy, so they're a lot more pliable and controllable on the road. Having a throttle controller like this one basically intercepts a signal from your throttle pedal to the actual throttle body, and it changes the way the throttle body opens compared to how much throttle you're actually inputting in the car.
Now there's quite a few different settings on your throttle controller, but generally speaking there's a few different settings which will go from things like economy to your full drive options and all those kinds of things. What that's basically doing is changing that throttle signal through the ECU, or does it go straight to your throttle body from this unit?
So this unit and others like it, they basically plug into either the back of the throttle body or the back of the throttle pedal in the car. Most of them are usually throttle pedal in the car. It's a nice, neat little install. So what it does is it intercepts the signal from the throttle pedal before it gets to the ECU, and basically it'll change that signal depending on what mapping you're in, and then basically input that data back to the ECU, and then the ECU will adjust the throttle body from there. So it's a little bit technical, but pretty much all it's doing is telling lies to the ECU, so it opens or closes the throttle body at a different rate to what the factory settings are.
So basically that's how you can get yourself, is it a 1-to-1 throttle ratio, is that right?
So generally not anymore. You know, 1-to-1 throttle ratios are your cable. The more you press the pedal, the more it opened. Nowadays they're basically just the same as an ECU map for your throttle or ignition. So there's different ways they ramp on or ramp off the throttle depending, and that'll change via the mode. So in the ECU it'll be a set throttle map depending on what's going on. This then tricks the ECU into thinking it's got either more or less, and then depending on what the mapping is in the actual controller is what you'll get at the throttle body.
Fantastic. All right. Well, there you go, guys. A quick technical explanation of how a throttle controller works. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go over to the workbench. I'll open this box up, give you a bit of a squiz of what's inside, and then we'll jump under the driver's side and install the Throttle Grenade throttle controller. 5-minute install. All right. Stay tuned. Righto guys, so what we have here is the Throttle Grenade throttle controller. So I'll do a quick unboxing of this and then we'll take it over to the vehicle. Now you can see here that the packaging itself is quite cool, some really nice labelling and whatnot. Nice neat little package. They've got a pretty cool little military theme that they've got going on with the Throttle Grenade. Okay, so opening it up, the first thing that you're going to see is the actual controller itself, and that's this little unit here. Now that's connected by a little lightning plug which is on the actual plug assembly itself. So I'll open the rest of it up. You can see inside that you've got absolutely everything that you need. Now first off, you've got the actual plug assembly itself. Now this has got your little controller as well as the plug and harness that piggybacks into the back of the pedal assembly like Phil the Mechanic explained earlier. Now you've also got a couple of cable ties for a bit of cable management and the ever important instructions. So make sure that you go through all of your instructions first, making sure that it's applicable for your vehicle and making sure that you follow all of the safety notifications involved. The last thing you want to be doing is skipping steps that could potentially cause harm to yourself and also harm to your vehicle. Alright, so that's basically all that's on the inside. Let's head over to that vehicle and install the Throttle Grenade throttle controller. Alright guys, so we're having a quick look now to see exactly where we're going to mount this control unit itself. Now this here is the control unit, as you can see, and the plan is that we're going to have that, you can see through the steering wheel, just on the left hand side of the steering wheel on this little 45. Now the cable itself will run then in through the back, that little gap there, and then underneath where you can see where the actual pedal assembly is down there. As you can see there's the pedal assembly, and just above it you can see the actual plug. So that's getting pointed out there by Phil the mechanic. Now we're going to quickly, now the car itself's been off for 10 minutes, so we're going to quickly disconnect that. Now that is a little clip type plug. You just push the little side clip in and that will release. Now that will click into your piggyback part of the unit, and then your input then clicks into the top, and it's that simple. Now from here it's basically a case of cable management. So a little bit of double-sided sticky tape on the side to mount that to just side of the chassis there somewhere, so it's nice and neat, and then running that cable up to the point where we mentioned before where we'll mount the actual unit.
Do you want to do a Hero Quest run tomorrow?
Yeah man, for sure.
Fuck yeah, I can't.
Thanks for ruining the video, but whatever. Alright guys, the moment of truth. The throttle controller has been installed, cable management all taken care of, and the little controller unit has been mounted to the left side of the dash behind the steering wheel. So we are going to turn the key and flash this unit up. Alright guys, so you can see here that the unit's all flashed up. Now this third button along, if you hold that one down, that will change between automatic and manual transmissions. Now I've got a manual, so we'll leave it in manual today. Now going along, if you press this first button, that will change in between the different modes. So you've got stock, which is essentially just the unit being off, sand and mud, off-road, explode, and Intel. Going through these different modes, first off we've got Intel. Now that's essentially like an automated function where it will vary your throttle response based on your driving style of readings that it will take throughout your driving process. Alright, so the next one's Crawl. Now this one's for dulling down your throttle response for a little bit more control when you're in those tricky off-road situations. Now stock, this one is essentially turning the unit off. So this will be exactly the same as the Jimny is when it's stock without a throttle controller installed. Sand and mud, obviously this is for use during your times on the beach and also when it gets a bit sloppy out on the track, adjusting your throttle response for those kinds of conditions. And a base level off-road mode. Now this is essentially for driving down those dirt tracks, fire lines and all of those kinds of things as well. Now you can see the number there with the plus and minus symbol. If you press the third button along, you can see that that increases your throttle response, and if you press the second button along, you can see that that decreases it. So these are the varying degrees of throttle response that you can set to customize your throttle response for your vehicle and your driving style depending on the condition that you're driving in. Pretty straightforward guys. There's the different modes available, the different varying degrees of throttle response you can set, and also setting up for manual and automatic control.
Okay, there you have it guys, the Throttle Grenade throttle controller installed into the mighty Jimny. Now the plan over the next few weeks is to monitor the Throttle Grenade throttle controller and see how it affects my driving style, fuel consumption and a few other things. I'll release those findings on my Instagram page over the next couple of weeks, so if you're interested in that kind of information, head over to my Instagram, which is the Mighty Overlander, and I'll put up a couple of reels and a few posts in the near future to show you how that has gone. But that's all from us today, so first off, Phil the mechanic, thanks very much.
No worries, mate.
And as always, in WA, if you've got one of these Ubutus European sports cars, come down and see the guys at Racing Dynamics. They'll look after you, and Phil the mechanic will be the man on the spot. All right, guys, thanks very much. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and notification bell, and you'll see when my content comes up next. Enjoy.